Erel. I'm very happy to meet you today again. Thank you for accepting our invitation and for sharing your story and your vision with us.
Thank you, Maria. It's such a pleasure to be here with you. You're in Milano and I'm in New York, and it's a great connection.
It's fantastic. Your professional history is so rich in experience and success that for me is not easy to summarize. But what I can say certainly is that you are considered a role model in the VC venture capital world. And that an important newspaper, Israeli newspaper, says that you are the first venture capital with a golden touch, and was exactly what I thought when I met you the first time in Tel Aviv. Your team is one of the best in the world, and your community is strong and very cohesive. So please, can you tell us a little bit about JVP, story, team, and community?
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for these compliments. I will try not to refocus and stay on this. So I started JVP 25 years ago when the venture industry in Israel began to emerge. We in Israel had a small economy, and in the last 25 years, we grew several times, primarily through technology, because our domestic market is small. And so we were in the middle of the communication revolutions in the 90s, starting and building great companies. And there I worked with companies like Telecom Italia Mobile, with Pirelli, both down in Milano, but also in Piedmonte, because they were making fiber optics. And then we went into BI and AI and some of the big data strategies, and then into cybersecurity, which is one of the things that we are one of the leading funds in the world. And in the last few years, we are adding food tech and agri-tech because Israel is very strong in technology on one hand and agriculture on the other. So we bring it together. And we have been very fortunate. I personally had 12 IPOs on NASDAQ. And so some of the companies became very large companies, and I was very lucky. And also 24 companies that I sold to giants, to other companies around the world. And so we built tens of thousands of jobs in some of the most interesting areas. And we never work alone. We always work with the US, we work with Europe, we work with Italy, with France, with England, with Germany. We work with Asia, because Israel is a small country. And if we want to take something big, we need the international cooperation. And we also have one of the biggest community programs in Israel. Because remember, we did all that in a city called Jerusalem. Italians understand history and understand innovation. And in Jerusalem, we have the history, but we also need a new story. If you have too much history, the new story gets lost. And the young generation, they need something new. And so we were connecting through innovation. Jerusalem was a city that had major issues, but we brought sort of new light with Jews, with Arabs, with religious and secular. And this story of innovation is like a new chapter for my country. It's a chapter where you're not closed, but you're open. When you're not alone, but you're together. And we hope that this idea of innovation can be very important also in the next chapter for the country politically, but it's we will see.
That's very interesting. Talking about your new agri-food tech fund, which is, according to you, the best area of application. And what do you find interesting and strategic in this regard, thinking at Italy?
So first of all, for the world, after COVID-19, everybody understands you need healthcare and you need food and food security. And so the big ideas is to take technology into the agriculture world and into the new food categories new protein, new way of packaging, new kind of categories so that people will have the right kind of food without destroying the environment. Well, Italy is a powerhouse in food. You know, when we love Italy in Israel and from all over the world, and when you come to Italy, you want to experience great people, great scenes, great history, but also great food. And I think that because you have so much innovation in whether it's the next generation dark chocolate, or whether it, you know, I met a really interesting guy, Banca, in your office, or whether it's you know, doing things in a very different manner. Because Italy is such a big food center, food tech is Israel. And so food and food tech, agri and agri-tech is something that needs to come together. So we see the partnership with Italy as a major partnership so that we can bring some of the best categories of the next generation food that is both healthy but also tasty. Because if it's not tasty, people don't eat. With the kind of leadership that Italy has and the kind of leadership that Israel has.
You know, you already said a little bit about that, but I want to go in detail. Italy and Israel have some points in common for sure, but even many differences. What is your vision on the collaboration between our two countries?
So I think Italy is very strong in certain areas, like fashion, like aerodynamics, like cars, like healthcare, like food. But in Italy, I think you do not always translate these very strong industries into startups. In Israel, we translate everything to startups. And so startups are really important for the next generation and for the young people, because Milano can be a great city. But if Milano wants to be one of the main cities in Europe, it needs to tell the young community, why do you stay in Milano to do the next big thing and not go to Berlin or London? And I think that's the opportunity of working together, because we can bring some of the big things that Milano, Lombardy, or Bologna, or Firenze, or Napoli, or Rome, or any city in Italy has, but also bring the startup community into your big expertise, because then you have something new. We do something new together. And I think that is a great message to the young generation that wants to stay and create in Italy rather than go to the other part of the world.
That's a very strong and good point, and I totally agree with you. You and your team, due to your excellent track record and your career, are very well known in the venture capital world, and I can say not only. And according to you, which the possible impact of COVID-19 in the venture capital and equity in the private market world?
So there's a crisis. In every industry, there's a crisis. And so you need new ways of thinking beyond the crisis. You need new healthcare systems, because we saw in the last crisis that if you just stay in the hospital, it's not good enough. You need the IT capabilities so that I can do diagnosis from home, that I could share this with other doctors, that I have community healthcare and not only in the big medical centers. 1. 2, food. You need food strategies that will do well with the environment and give people the supply, because otherwise people will be hungry, because things are different in the world today. 3, cybersecurity and defense. There are today more bandits and hackers that are stealing money from the banks and from the people, because crime is not on the streets, crime is in cyber domain. And so you need protection. We are working with many of the Italian banks. The Italian financial system, the banks are very strong. Some of the insurance companies are strong, and we need to work together in order to give answers to some of the new ideas. Even if you have a bank and you need to understand how to give loans, the government wants you to give loans to small businesses, right? After COVID. But many of the systems do not know their small businesses like they know the giants. So what do? You need AI. You need good information systems so that you can work with IT and AI and deep learning in order to identify the small business that this is an honest man or an honest woman, that they are okay, I can give them the loan. And you don't know so much about them because they're not a large company. Technology will help you. Technology is going to be key. And the other thing is cooperation. We cannot work alone. We need to work with other countries on big initiatives. Israel and Italy, now after the crisis, need to come up with a few things that are new. Okay, food tech and ag tech because Italy is so strong. Healthcare because Italy is strong in healthcare and Israel is strong in IT and healthcare. We can work together. Cybersecurity, of course. So I think if we find 1, 2, 3 themes, this could be a big boost to Italy. And I think the Italians should understand they need to give incentive to their young entrepreneurs so that you leave a large company and you go and start something. And incentives to the investors that can invest in new businesses that create new jobs.
As you maybe know, right now the Italian government agreed for a very huge incentive program for investors in small and medium business innovatives. So not only startups, but even startup. And it's a very important, simple, but big incentive. So it's a small piece, but it's an important piece because our venture capital market, it's, as you know, very small, so needs more capital. I promise you this is the last one. Can you tell us a story that for you left a mark, an important one, that changed a little bit your vision or enlarged your vision?
I think that some of the best stories are stories where you have crisis, but you decide to move forward. So after it was a big crisis, the investors in one of our companies, CyberArk, which was started by 4 guys from a poor neighborhood in Jerusalem. They came from humble beginnings. So the investors, after the crisis of 2008, they wanted to sell the company. The company reached $30 million of revenues, and they wanted to sell the company for $120 million, which is okay, it's not a bad price. But the entrepreneurs came to me and said, let's go out to lunch. And at lunch, we had some good Chianti wine, and they said to me, we should not sell this company. We are now just beginning to do something large. We should continue to build this company, but we need help because we don't have any money because we come from poor families, and the other investors want to sell. So I said, okay, I will help you. We buy the other investors out. We give them 110, 120 million, but we invest. We give you some money personally so that you are more calm, and we build a large company. Today, the company is not 110, 120. It is a little over 4 billion, and we are large shareholders, and the entrepreneurs are now very successful. So instead of selling the company now has more than 1,000 people working for it in Israel, in Europe, in the US, and they are now one of the leaders. And I think that this is a good example for what differentiates a good company with a great company, a good investor and a great investor. You need to listen. You need to be patient. The big deals, they take time. But if you see that you can build a large company with the people that you're working with, give them the support, and they will prove that they can do something that you did not even imagine. And sometimes you need to be lucky, and luck comes to those who are strong and patient.
Wow, thanks. Thanks for sharing. I really thank you for your time, and promise me, please, to come back after our funds was finally fundraising in order to share some co-investment and the investment that we are doing in your funds. Okay?
Thank you. Just one anecdote, one of the companies in the fund, in the food tech fund, InnovaPro, which is chickpea protein, is now in the yogurt of Migros and Danone. They were just selected as one of the 20 most innovative companies of 2020. We are very proud, and we will be very happy that you're invested with us and build another big company, I hope.
I hope to be ready in a few months, and really thank you for sharing with us. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Maria.